Good morning, Flosstube. Today is Thursday, the 14th of October 2021, and this is my Flosstube number 12. You're very welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah. I am Sew Me Sarah, and this is a channel primarily about cross stitch and other needle crafts and little bits of life and other tidbits thrown in as and when. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Thank you to my returning viewers. You know that I am so appreciative of your support always on this channel, your support in the comments, and how kind you always are to me and my little channel. If you're new here, you're very, very welcome. I do hope that you enjoy what you see today. And if you do enjoy that, please like and subscribe so that you can watch again in the future. Today I hope to share a little bit with you about my a couple of finishes, about my whips, and I have a little bit of quilting yay to show you. And also after that then I have a little bit more of a focus piece on English paper piecing. One of my lovely viewers here, Tara, asked several videos back if I would show a little bit more about EPP one day, and I said I would, and I'm sorry that it's taken me a little while to get around to that, Tara, but today I have pulled some of my EPP projects to show you, and I'll do a little bit of a chat about why I like EPP and that kind of thing at the end of the video. So I will talk about cross stitch first, and then I will talk about the quilting afterwards. So if you're not interested in the quilting, you can make your escape at the appropriate juncture. Since last time, I have had a lovely restorative weekend away with my friends. There were 4 of us, and we went to the north coast of Northern Ireland, to a little town called Portstewart, and we stayed in a house there, which was a very lovely little house. And we stayed there and we stitched and we chatted and we laughed more and we stitched a little bit more, and we even got out into the fresh air for some coastal walks and just to blow the cobwebs away, really. So I've been showing some pictures overlaid here while I've been chatting, and I hope it gives you an idea of the beauty of our north coast. And you can also see that the weather was very different at different parts of the days. It was a very changeable weekend, but I have to say mostly it was very beautiful. The weather here has been very strange for October. It's been pleasant. We were able to sit and have ice cream outside, and then we would get caught in a downpour the next minute. So yeah, very odd, changeable weather for October, and it's still very mild now, even today. So I'm still in like summer t-shirts, but yeah, it doesn't feel too autumnal just yet. Although the leaves have fallen off my Amelanchier in the garden. It's a tree in my front garden, and they look beautiful. And they're just tiny copper leaves now at this stage, and yeah, I'm enjoying that fall look, even if it does seem to be coming a little bit late this year. In the past couple of weeks, I was contacted by one of my lovely viewers called Katerina, and Katerina was just chatting with me by email about her venture into cross stitch, and she was kind enough to share with me her very first cross stitch pattern, which I'll include here for you to see. Katerina has just been enjoying the therapeutic benefits of cross stitch, as a lot of us do, and she's been enjoying adventuring into a new craft, because I think that she also does crochet and knitting and things like that. But as you can see, she's done a really lovely job with her very first pattern, and she gave me permission to share that here with you, to show you. She doesn't have a shop or anything just at present, but it is something she is thinking about and considering, and I'm sure that if she decides to open a shop in the future, she will let me know how you can access that and get hold of her patterns and anything else that she might decide to put in her shop and design. So Katerina, thank you. This is the kind of engagement that we enjoy here on the channel, knowing about other cross stitchers and a little bit about your journey and seeing your beautiful work. So I hope that you continue to enjoy cross stitch and continue to make lovely designs, and if you do have a shop, I do wish you all the very best with your plans for developing that. So also, since last time, I just wanted to pass on an apology to one of you, to Sherry, who has commented on my last video. And she made a comment about the Brenda Keyes book, Traditional Stitches, that I showed. And she was saying, Sherry, you were saying that you have found it on Amazon for some ridiculous $974 price, but then actually did come across it on a half price bookstore for $9.99, which is much more acceptable. I'm glad you found it. I hope that you enjoy it. But I want to say very quickly that I'm sorry I didn't respond to your comment. It came to my inbox from Google and YouTube, but I was not able to get back to it somehow on the channel. Every link about managing my comments or replying to you just seemed to fail. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. That doesn't happen very often. It's happened one other time. But I wasn't able to comment and reply to you, and I do like to comment and reply to everyone, so I'm not ignoring you. I just have had some kind of technical issue that I'm not smart enough to resolve, or that Google is just being particularly tricky with. So Sherry, I'm glad you found the book. I do hope that you enjoy it, and I'm glad that you didn't spend $974, because wonderful as it is, it's not worth that much. So let's move on to some stitching today. I have two lovely finishes to share with you today. And the first is a duplicate. So this is my second stitch of Stay Classy, which is at Mama Love You GB. Sorry, I'll say that again. At Mama Loves You GB here on Flosstube. Michelle has this little chart for free, and I think it's linked on the bottom of some of her videos, so if you are interested. I stitched this for myself a few weeks back, and a friend said, oh, I really like that, and I offered to stitch one for her, and she has just moved house, and so she chose this linen and this thread. This is Weeks Dye Works Glacial Melt, and it's beautiful. It's very slightly variegated, but it's a beautiful teal colour. I'm not sure if it's showing up terribly well this morning. But that's my second version of Stay Classy. So I'm making this for Lindsay, my friend, and I will be putting a back on it and making it into a little display cushion for her. Hopefully this weekend, because when I'm stitching for myself, I'm not very prompt about making them finishes, but when I'm stitching for other people, I do like to get on with it, especially when it's for a gift. My second finish is all the trimmings. This was the free pattern and stitch along by Fat Quarter Shop, and I think it's beautiful. So the final part 5, were the top and the bottom borders, these little swirly snow swishy borders, sorry, snow swishing borders, and I think they just finish it off beautifully. So that didn't take too long to stitch up when it was released, and I'm very happy to say that I'm finished, because this was a sale I hadn't really planned to join, and probably shouldn't have joined given the number of whips that I have on the go, but it's very nice to have it finished. And as I said previously, I think I said I will probably try and finish this as a cushion, I think, maybe when I'm finishing And To All a Good Night, which I'm still stitching, but maybe when I'm finishing that, I'll also finish this in a cushion, because the colours are pretty similar and would work well with the fabrics that I've identified for that. So fingers crossed, by this Christmas this will be a finished cushion or something. I also reinstated the daily thread. You know that I work, or had worked on the basis of a daily thread. So every day that I stitch, it may not necessarily be every single day of the week, but every day that I stitch, I try to start by putting one thread into a project that I've identified as my daily thread project. And for a long time, that was the Be Happy needlepoint piece. And I just take one length of thread, whatever that length is that I work with on that particular project. I stitch that in, and that gets it a little bit of progress. And it doesn't look like much each day, but over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, you do actually get quite a bit done on a project that isn't one of your focuses. So I had let that go a little bit just with time and rejigging our routines here, but I have brought it back, and you can see it's still on the Q snap here. I have brought back my daily thread practice for this whip, which is Celebrate Spring by Madame Chantilly. Sorry, flapping these at you. Madame Chantilly. Sorry, you can see there's a watermark of my address just across. That's the way the PDF comes. So I have been working in this section here for my daily threads, and I've managed to finish the birdhouse, although it needs a roof. There is a roof to go on. And this pink vase, it needs its spots put in. And these, which I think they're probably lily of the valleys, they're very cute. So that's 2 weeks worth of one thread a day. And, you know, it's not huge, but it's still progress. It's progress I wouldn't have made if I hadn't done it. So I'm enjoying that. And I'm very much hoping that this will be a finish by the end of the year if I can keep doing thread a day. So that is Celebrate Spring by Madame Chantilly. And next up is Peppermint Purple's Blackwork Pattern Rainbow Quilt Cross. And you know, I've been working this one on 18 count white Aida. It's crispy, crunchy white Aida. But I'm getting there. Look, I've only 6 little sections left to fill. I stitched these 4 this time, I think. And some of them were not too dense, so I think that's why I was able to make 4 of them. And yeah, just these 6 to go, and then this will be finished. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with this piece. Oh, it wants to flap off. Although I think it might make a nice project bag, but we'll see. So that is Peppermint Purple's Rainbow Quilt Cross. And then I stitched on Christmas Wishes by Little Dove Designs. And I'm now down as far as the word winter. Yep, down as far as the word winter. So let me just switch this onto the board for you to see. There we go. So I've finished off the snowman, which I had started. I put in these poinsettias, I imagine they are, and then the borders and the wreath, the hearts, the Christmas tree, another border, and winter. And I'm continuing to work the board, the outside border down as I go, just finishing threads and bringing that down rather than having to face that all in one go at the end. And this is being stitched on an 18 count, which makes it nice and small and neat. And it's a Rustico Aida. It is the softest Aida. This is a piece that I've had for years and years and years and years. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what brand it was. I know it was part of a package that I got with one of those, like a subscription to a craft book, like a monthly craft book, and you ordered, you know, you had to order 4 times a year from that subscription. And this was part of the pack of Aida that was the free gift that came along with the subscription. So I don't know what brand it is, but it's beautiful and it's really, really lovely and soft to work with. And I think that it looks nice in this chart as well. So I'm glad that there's progress there, and as you can see, there's not too much more to go. There we are. There's the gingerbread man, Santa, dove, snowflakes, and the word wishes. So this will hopefully be ready for Christmas, and I need to think about what way I want to finish it. I want to finish it as some kind of like freestanding ornament / picture, but I need to think about how to do that. I have a couple of pieces, but I think that this is actually narrower than the pieces I've got. Maybe it just didn't turn out as big as I thought it was going to be, but that's all to be worked out. But I'm enjoying the progress and glad to have made the progress that I did in the last couple of weeks. I'm still snatching little bits of time and missing the big chunks I used to have, but it's all good. My stitch alongs this month have not had huge amounts of progress so far. So this one is La Finestra del Tempo, and you can see my thread and needle are still on the back. So I haven't even finished this thread. But this will be March, and there's a daisy at the top corner. I think there's a little ladybird or ladybug, as you call them in the US. We call them ladybirds here. And there's a little ladybird that goes in just at the bottom of the daisy here. And that will obviously say March. And then there's a house and a frog and other beautiful things that Marla has put on her pattern. So this is the sew along for La Finestra del Tempo, the time windows. And this is by Crochet A Go-Go. I'm stitching my 3rd month because we started this back in August. And I'm stitching my 3rd month, which is March. You can join on Instagram using the hashtag Finestra del Tempo Sal. Please join at any time, stitch any month that you want. We're a bit lax with the rules, but it's just about sharing progress on the beautiful charts that Marla has created. And I see some people are making great headway with March already. So that is my very small start, but hopefully I'll get a little bit further soon. And the other stitch along that I'm doing at the moment is, oops, sorry, we have a topple situation over here, is Clara Hansen. And that is a chart by Hello from Liz Matthews. Sorry, I forgot to take it out of the bag, but hopefully you get to see it without too much glare. And I'm doing this stitch along with Kim from The Contented Stitcher. She is on Instagram as kgoldman63 or here on Flosstube as The Contented Stitcher. And Kim and I are stitching this together, and you should check hers out because it's very different from mine. She's stitching on some insanely small piece of small count of fabric, or high count. This is the start that I have made on Clara, the alphabets at the top and the numbers and that top border. And I really love this top border, so I'm still on the Q-snap here. And I have, this is the first time that I have used the Q-snap this way round. Normally I would be stitching with my fabric on the top, but I saw Sambry Stitches, Rebecca at Sambry Stitches, or Becca, sorry, at Sambry Stitches, say that if you stitch this way around, then on the back, when you're trying to finish off the threads, you've got much more freedom to do that, because normally this would be the back. And when I'm trying to finish off a thread that's close to this Q-snap, you haven't got anywhere to go with your needle. So it is counterintuitive to me to do it this way, to have it framed this way. But I do already see the benefit of finishing your threads much more easily, much less impeded by the frame or the hoop or whatever it is that you have. So I might have to learn to do everything upside down. We'll have to see. But anyway, I put Clara on the Q-snap, and I think she might all fit in without having to move her around, actually, which would be nice, not have to move the Q-snap. And I'm hoping to get back to her to do the next border, which is a beautiful floral border. I'm hoping to do that soon. So those are my sals for the last couple of weeks. I'm pretty happy with the progress. I do notice that there's been a marked downturn in my stitching time, but this is probably much more realistic, because what happened before was a result of pandemic and not working the same, and all sorts of different life changes. So this is a bit more normal now, where there isn't just as much time, but I'm making the most of what I can get, and I'm still trying to keep rotation and keep projects moving. Of course, some have been forgotten about a little bit, but I can talk about that when I'm going to tell you a little bit about my plans. So as I've been watching Flosstube the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that lots of us are considering our options for the approaching turn of the year. And it feels like we are having a think about where we are with our projects and where we want to go next year and how we want to run things next year, what kind of a motivational program we want to have, if any. And I've been thinking about all of that too. So you know that this year I've used WhipGo, and I've been pretty happy with how that's worked out for me. But there have been times when I found that maybe I didn't want to stitch what the number was that was called, and but I stitched it anyway. And I did try to keep up pretty much as much as I could. But I'm finding in the last few months, especially because some of my projects on my board were for new starts, that as I'm approaching the end of the year, I don't actually want to start those new projects, if they're called, because, well, quite frankly, I've got plenty on the go already, and I don't need some of them to be new starts right now. So I have been thinking about whether or not to do WhipGo again next year, and I think I might not. But what I am going to do is kind of similar in a way, in that it's based on a board and a number of projects. But this idea that I now have, excuse me, I'm very froggy this morning. This idea that I now have is based on inspiration from Melanie at Melly Ellie Stitchers here on Flosstube. Melanie has explained in some of her previous posts about her 35 whips. She has a monthly diary overview page, excuse me. She has a monthly diary overview page, and on that she has the 7 days of the week by 5 weeks. And she decided that for her, 35 projects was a good number to call. Excuse me, I'm very, very sorry. I have already stopped to edit once because of this, and I'm trying my best not to have to edit again, because it takes forever to upload on YouTube when your video's in lots of different bits and pieces. Anyway, Melanie contains her whips at 35. So she has her board and she says, this is the number that I'm going to work with, and she tries her very best to contain at 35. And she works on those, and when one project is finished, then she stickers over that and creates a blank. And so she's got a space for a new start or something else to come along when she's ready to do that. And I really liked that idea, but I wasn't so sure about the number 35. I'm so sorry, folks. There's nothing worse, and I hope I haven't deafened anybody who is listening on earbuds. So 35, too many projects for me. So what I have given some thought to is what number would work for me. And I have, over the last month or two, been trialing 16. And I've called it my Sweet 16. So here's my little board, which is the equivalent of Melanie's little monthly planner. And you can see that I started out with these ones and I printed them on. But since then, when the project is finished, I put a sticker over, so I've got a gap now. So I'm only 15 at the moment. She says only. And actually all the trimmings is finished, so I can sticker it. And it's easy peasy. Now I've got 2 nice gaps and I can work on those. And this I have found in the last couple of months, as I've still been working with WhipGo, but I've been trying to work with this as well, just to get an idea. It's a trial really, just to get an idea of, do I want to try this for real next year? And I think I do. I think this is what I want to do from January. I want to have my 16 whips on, and when I finish one project, sticker it over, which creates a nice gap for me and kind of gives me permission to start something else. And it's not really about the rules, it's just about a little bit of structure for me. I work well in structure, I don't work well in chaos. So if this doesn't work for you, don't even consider it. But it's just my thoughts based on other people's clever ideas. And I thought this would work for me. I've also got a couple of smaller boards with just like 4 squares on it for my quilts. And I'm going to try that as well. For the other crafts that I do, just so that I don't get overwhelmed, because I do find that I get overwhelmed and I don't know what I want to work on or where to go next. but this is letting me see my projects at a glance and say, right, well, this month I want to do these 3 or these 5. Or I know that this one has a deadline because it's for a Christmas present or whatever it might be, or this is one of my sales. So I'll work on that for this month. Some of them have been forgotten about. This one I should probably not talk about at all because it's my longest WIP. It's from 2006, folks, 2006. I'm not even sure I've shown it much here, but hopefully we'll see more of that in months to come. Maybe not this year, but next year. I'm planning that it'll get a resurgence next year. Anyway, you can see I had 16 projects in there, and as I'm working through them, I'm stickering them. So some of them have a couple of layers of stickers on. And I think this is a nice way for me to contain it. And 16 was like a sweet spot number for me, so it's easy to call this then my sweet 16. So I hope that I have explained that, excuse me, again, and I hope it makes sense. Looking at this now, I can see that I would like to have Christmas wishes finished before the end of the year. I would like to have And to All a Good Night finished before the end of the year. La Finestra will just change month by month as long as I'm keeping up. So that will continue right through next year. The Hardest Climb is a Christmas present, so I'd like that finished before the end of the year, obviously. The Rainbow Blackwork Cross is only 6 little sections from a finish, so that will hopefully be a finish. And that would mean that I'll have lots of little blank spaces for some new things without feeling overwhelmed by continually adding new things without making any finishes. That's the plan. It's working so far. There are projects that haven't been touched for quite some time, but that's okay. That's going to happen. That's going to happen when you have lots on the go, and as long as I'm happy with it and it's working for me, then this is a good way to go. So I think this is what I will do, and I'm going to call it my Sweet 16, and I'm going to do my very best to keep up with it next year. And it's sort of almost like there isn't a keeping up with it, it's just containing it, not getting overwhelmed, and enjoying the things I do stitch. So I can choose each month to stitch what I want to stitch rather than the randomness of WIP Go choosing for me. But that isn't as bad as it sounds either, because I did enjoy some of that. So WIP Go will work for some of you, and I commend Jessie Marie Does Stuff for creating the WIP Go tool for people. It's a fun way to be part of a community that is working towards finishing the projects that we've all started. So Sweet 16 is my plans for next year. Just thought I would share that in case it's an idea that helps anyone else, because as I said, it's not initially my idea anyway. It's something that I stole from Melanie. So thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Melanie, for that. So just to finish off the stitching segment of my channel today, this video, I am going to let you know who is the recipient of the share. And this is Stacey Nash Primitive's Woolly's Pin Keep. There were 40 entries for this. You had to mention the word sheep in the comment on my last video. There were 40 of you who were interested in having this chart sent to you, and the winner is Susan Oberfell. So congratulations, Susan. If you would like to let me know your postal address, I will get this out to you as soon as I can. You can contact me, just use the email address in the drop down list below, or you'll find me on Instagram at SewMeSarah, and you can direct message me there and let me have your postal address, and I will get this out to you. So congratulations on the share. I hope you enjoy. I'm going to have a little chat now about my progress with my quilting pieces, and also then to explain a little bit about English paper piecing and some of the projects that I have done by that method. So if the quilting doesn't interest you, then you're free to go. And I hope that you'll come back next time for a little bit more cross-stitch chat. But hopefully you'll hang around, because even if you don't quilt yourself, I hope that you might find some of it interesting. So when I went up the North Coast with my friends, I took a project, a quilt project. I showed you that I had cut out for the autumn boho quilt, which is a pattern by my friend Judith at Just Judith Designs. I think autumn probably refers to her fabric choice for this particular quilt that she did as a class. And there we go. She's Just Jude Designs here on Flosstube, and she's Just Jude Belfast on Instagram, and she has a Just Jude Designs website as well where you can purchase the patterns. I will link this one below if you're interested. This is a fabulous pattern for allowing your bigger prints to shine, not having to chop them up into teeny weeny pieces. You can see she had lots of autumnal shades of fabrics there, so I think that's where the autumn comes from anyway. But I was using Bonnie and Camille fabrics donated very kindly for the Siblings Together quilt group, and they were donated by Sarah and Penny at Pretty Fabrics and Trims, and I got the whole top pieced on our weekend away, which was probably nothing short of a miracle given that we were not the most industrious crew. We were all very tired and all just really enjoying company, and just no pressured sewing, but I did like to get on, and I did manage to finish up the quilt top. I'm going to insert a picture here so that you can see it better, because I know that I'm not going to be able to hold it up terribly well to show you, but I will hold it up also so that you can get an idea of the scale. So here we go. These are, as I said, all the Bonnie and Camille fabrics kindly donated by Sarah and Penny. And I have a peek over the top so you can see what you can see. Yeah, I don't. Sorry for the scratchy chair noise. This is just the top corner of the quilt, and you really can't get an idea, but hopefully you can see those are big square blocks, about 18 inches, thereabouts, 17 and a half maybe. And the prints are just beautiful, and you can see what I mean about it allowing you to keep your prints in one piece and not having to chop up into teeny weeny bits. See? So I can't really give you a good view of the quilt just like this, but hopefully you'll be able to see from the photograph much better. Excuse me. Oops. Hopefully you'll be able to see much better in the photograph how lovely the pattern comes together. And it's a nice simple one to work on when you are with a group of friends and you are chatting and distracted by making meals and having fun. So it was nice and simple. It didn't require too much brain power and I managed to get it all stitched together on the weekend. So it will join the to be quilted pile, and hopefully it won't take me too much longer to get around to that. At the weekend I also took away a couple of little pre-cut kits that I'd made up for myself for the notelet folios that I showed you that I made some of these in July when I went to visit my other friend and other friends in the Lake District. And I made some of these then, and I decided that I wanted to make a few more for gifts that I need to share currently, and a couple that I'm leaving aside for Christmas gifts as well. So I just thought I would show you this. It is a downscaled version of a journal cover basically, and I scaled the size down to fit greetings cards, little 4x4 greetings cards. Okay, sorry, 4" by 6" greeting cards. So I downscaled the pattern, but it is essentially a journal cover. So if you can find journal cover patterns, then you can make one of these yourself. I will link below the notebook cover pattern by Just Jude Design, so that you can have a look and see the concept, the construction concepts behind this. You can obviously remake the cover. Judith's tutorial is showing a particular block pattern on the front, but you can make it wherever you like. You can see that I just stitched 3 pieces of fabric together with a little bit of lace trim on the border parts. And then on the inside, I added a little flap, and that's just to put a book of stamps. And I thought these would make pretty gifts, because I owe some people some thank you gifts, and also some Christmas gifts. So I have 2 here. I thought I would show you in the flesh, as it were, because when I made the ones in July, I didn't get a chance to show you them properly. I could only show you photographs. So that's the little journal cover. Sorry, it is a journal cover. It's reduced in size to fit notelets as a little correspondence or notelet folio. So just another little idea of how to adapt patterns for gifts. And I guess the Christmas season is coming up soon, so you might like to also have a go. If you are interested, I would be happy to share my cutting sheet with you, so that you can cut to the size, but it will only work for the 4" by 6" cards, and you have to just be careful about your 1/4" seam. So if you would like that, then you need to contact me. You can contact me on the email below and let me have your email address, so that I could forward the cutting sizes for you, just as to how I made this one. But for actual construction, you might want to watch Judith's video. Okay, so I'm happy to have a few little things, little machine sewing projects finished, and to be getting on and be a little bit ahead for some of my Christmas makes. Although I'm not really doing many Christmas makes. I did that one year. I tried to make for everybody, and it was overwhelming, and not everybody appreciated it. So so now I'm a bit more choosy about who I make for. So that's really it on my progress. So I thought I would take the next few minutes just to share with you a little bit about English paper piecing. As I mentioned earlier, I had a comment on a previous video from Tara, who asked if I would share a little bit more about EPP. And I'm very happy to do that, because EPP is one of my favorite quilting techniques. And basically, I love it because I find it meditative, I find it relaxing, and I find it very portable. So I can take this with me, just a little pouch, needle, thread, scissors, papers, fabric, and off I go. And I can take this in the car, I can take it wherever I want to, and I can baste some hexagons. I am a thread baster, talk about that in a wee second. I can baste some hexagons, I can stitch them together, and slowly, sometimes mostly very slowly, my projects will come together. So I have some, I have some projects that I will show you in a moment or two, but I wanted to show you just that really this is all you need for EPP. You need your paper shape, you need a piece of fabric, you need either thread, or you can baste with glue pens. A lot of people are basting with the glue pens now. And if you have all of that and a needle, and then some thread for actually stitching them together, that's pretty much all you need. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have a big outlay on expensive tools and equipment. Now, you can, once you get more into it, buy some more specialist tools and equipment. But you don't have to initially, and it's a very nice way to start. And you can also start, obviously, with scraps and just piece together scrappy bits and bobs until you get the hang of it and know whether you really enjoy it. I love it. I really do love it. As I said, I find it relaxing and restful. Now, there are a couple of options for the basting, which I've showed you. This one has been glue basted. Obviously not very well because it's come apart. This one has been glue basted and this one has been thread basted. Now my thread basting is ugly, but it does the job. I love thread basting and I use bobbins, old thread, leftover. Whenever your bobbin on the machine is running down, then I just pop all the leftovers onto my basting thread bobbins, and then that's a good way to use thread that would otherwise end up in the bin. I like thread basting. I find it enjoyable because I can do it when I'm watching television, but other people, an increasing number of people, it seems, will prefer to glue baste with the pen. The glue pen. This is by Soline, and it's got a little tube of glue in it basically, and you wind it up and you can buy refills and replace that. And the glue is blue. I think there might be pink also, and it dries clear. And you basically just swipe the glue stick along, which I'll do down here. So you can see it's blue, and then you fold over and press it and that will hold. So I did try this, but I didn't like it as much. But I know that many, many people do love it for the speed. It is so much quicker than thread basting. But I'm not always in a hurry, as you've gathered. and I just prefer the thread basting. So anyway, that was just to let you know that there are different ways of doing it. So if you're interested in EPP and haven't tried it before, or maybe tried it in the past and would like to try again, you know, do have a good look around, you know, Google it, have a look here on Flosstube, and watch a number of different people and see what different ways there are of doing things, because just if you don't like one way, you'll probably find that somebody else has found a way to counteract the issue that you don't like. And there are new ways, new methods and new tools and resources available to do that, like with the glue basting. Yeah, so have a good look around and see what way you would like to do it. So now let me stop wittering on and just show you some of the lovely projects that you can achieve with English paper piecing. So obviously there's a big variety, and hexagons have been my favourite for a long time. Way back in 2001 I bought fabric from a local fabric store. So I chose browns and golds and reds and creams, and I was going to make a granny's flower garden quilt. So I will show you how it turned out up here, and then I'll tell you that it took me 10 years to do that. There was probably a gap of about 6-7 years in the middle where I didn't do anything with it, but that is my first ever EPP big quilt. I think I did a little doll's quilt for a friend's daughter a very long time ago, but I don't have any record of that. This one was my first bigger quilt. It's only still a lap size quilt, but I love it. And it lives in my mum and dad's apartment now. But it did take a long time to finish it, to know how I wanted to finish it, and to piece it together, but I enjoyed it very, very much. Of course, there are more than just hexagons that you can stitch together by EPP, and this book is quite a nice book, All Points Patchwork by Diane Gilliland, and it shows you different shapes that you can piece together, and there's a lot of instruction in this book, so it's a good book for beginners. And there's also then projects to try based on all of the different shapes. I'm just looking to show you. So there are different shapes, and she shows you how to cut them, how to baste them, and then how to piece them together, and different combinations of shapes in little projects and things too. So that is a nice book for those of you who are interested in EPP beyond the hexagon. and also in the hexagon as well. So other shapes that I have worked with include the apple core, and I've showed you this quilt when I did a little video of the quilts in my hallway upstairs. Now you can see this is a very big apple core shape. They would traditionally, I suppose, be a little bit smaller. But this quilt was pieced by English paper piecing with the very big paper pieces. And I really enjoyed it. And then I machine quilted it, but it was all pieced together by hand. That's your apple core. And then this one I can't remember the name of the designer or the quilt pattern, but I came across it online, I think through blogs, and it is based on hexagon, obviously. Well, it's not obvious because you haven't seen it yet. Let me hold it up and I'll show you. It's based on a hexagon, but they're not regular hexagons. And the idea, obviously, this was called the hexi globe, and you were getting a 3D effect. I'm not sure if you can see that, how well you can see that. Hopefully it's blowing a little bit. Hopefully you can see this sort of 3D effect and of the hexi. I think I called it hexi globe. It might have been officially called the hexi ball, but I loved it. I thought it was great as a pattern concept, and I loved stitching it until we got to the very edge pieces, which were teeny tiny skinny malink pieces, and it just made it harder with the seams. And you can see that I then appliqued this circle onto the polka dot background, and this one, before we redecorated, it was hanging above our bed, and it makes a really nice wall quilt. But that's just an idea to show you that there are other pattern designers out there working with EPP, doing very clever things, making these sort of 3D images of the designs, and I enjoyed the challenge of that. Even the skinny bits, really. I might complain about them, but I actually did enjoy the challenge of them. So the next quilt that I want to show you, I'm going to insert a little video here, just because you can see it better if I keep it on the wall. So hanging in the hallway, the entrance hall to our home, is my Admiring Jane quilt. And this was my attempt. I did have big plans to do the whole Dear Jane quilt. That's the quilt by Jane Stickle, which is in the Brenda Papadakis book. I'll show you that in a moment. But I only got as far as a 5x5 squares. So each of the squares is about 4.5 inches finished, if I remember correctly, or 4.5 inches, unfinished. And they're pieced by the English paper piecing method. And then I added the sashing cornerstones and the rest of the quilt borders by machine. But as I said, each of the little 25 blocks are English paper pieced. Some of them, sorry for the wobbles here, I'm not very good at holding still, some of them have teeny tiny, insanely small piecing. So there's my thumb for a reference on that center sawtooth star. Sorry, you can see there are a lot of seams behind there. Some of that piecing is very wee, but I enjoyed this quilt, but I just couldn't get any further. It took me so long just to get this far, and I decided to call it quits, make it a mini quilt, hang it here, and I called it Admiring Jane, because I do admire her patience and obviously the amount of time that she had and effort to put into the big quilt. So this was, as I said, I called it the Admiring Jane quilt because I didn't achieve what she did, and I have great admiration for her fortitude and patience. But this is from Brenda Papadakis' book, Dear Jane, and I just want to show you the original because it's beautiful. So this is the original. This was what I set out to do but didn't quite manage. You can see, if you look carefully, that this was my center. I had started in the center and I worked a number of those blocks. I think I ended up changing a couple. I think when I got to about 21 or 22 blocks, I knew I wasn't going to finish and I just switched in some that I liked. But this is the Jane Stickle quilt. Now, just a word in case you see this and are interested. I would recommend that you do some research on Dear Jane and on this book because it's not quite as you imagine. The book has no instructions, particularly. It just has some drawings that you can photocopy and cut and EPP. There are groups around though that have produced machine versions of these. Instructions for machine piecing the blocks, I should be more clear. The book can be hard to find and it can sometimes be very expensive, so just be careful that you're not overcharged for the book, and be aware that you aren't getting instructions or cutting sizes or anything else. You are literally getting row by row the diagrams of the books. There's a little bit of information at the beginning about how to go about it, but yeah, there's not a huge amount of actual instructions. So this is not for beginners. This is for someone who knows what they're doing and is more confident. But it's absolutely stunning. I would love to see the original quilt. And I will always feel, I think, that it's like the quilt that got away, that I didn't quite make it to. But, you know, sometimes you just have to be realistic. When it's taken you nearly 3 years to piece 25 blocks, you think, I'm not really going to get 169 of these done. So that's okay. Of course, the hexagon is always going to be my favourite. I don't know why I have such an affinity with it. I think probably because it was what I started with way back when I was about 13 or 14 at school, and we had a needlework class. We had to do a project on English paper piecing, and I do believe my project is somewhere in the roof space in our loft, and I would love to come across it again because I was so proud of that project. And we did a little bit of research and, you know, the make, do and mend background of piecing, the pioneer quilts idea, and anyway, where it all came from, the history. And I was really taken by it even way back then. And we had to make a hexagon cushions at school, and I loved it. I just loved it, and I've loved it ever since. And I think that's probably where my affinity with the hexagon has come from. It's also a very efficient shape, so mathematically my brain likes the hexagon. So I have used it, a smaller version of it, and this is a hexagon but with a rounded top. Okay, so this is EPP appliqued onto a white square and made into a coaster, and these are in my living room, and I'm only showing you 2 today because the other ones are coffee stained. So I have a set of 4 of these. These are 1/2-inch hexies, and as I said, they are just obviously the center is a proper regular hexie, and then these ones have a curved border to make them like little petals. So making a hexagon shape and appliquing it on top is another great way of using English paper piecing. And I did that also. I'll put a picture in here, a couple of aspects of that on the Sew a Little Happiness embroidery that I was working on through the first lockdown here in the UK. You can see that I've done a little trio of hexagons in orange, and then also a little grandmother's flower garden, a granny flower, I think maybe they're called. And and appliqued them and then embroidered around them. So there are ways of using your EPP that don't involve having to do an entire quilt, unless you really want to, which of course I do. I have plans for a quilt, and that's what's in here are the elements of a quilt. So this quilt is going to be, yes, it's another Bonnie and Camille. These are pre-basted, and this quilt is going to be a Hexy Diamonds quilt. That's what I'm calling it. And here's what it looks like so far. So you can see I've made quite a lot of progress, but it's been over a very long time, and it's kind of become a forgotten project. But mainly because I spend a lot of my hand stitching time cross stitching now. So anyway, I do hope to get back to this one, this Hexy Diamonds one. And there's going to be a lot of background, cream background hexes added in, and little designs across the bottom. So I think I might have a picture of that as well. So that all has to be added in and stitched together. All of those diamond shapes are made, and you think, oh yes, I made great progress, and then you realize you still have hundreds and hundreds more. But you know, this is a project I love doing in slow time, and that is, I think that's part of the joy of EPP for me, is that it can be slow time. So if you are interested or thinking about it, I recommend that you start small. Find a shape or a pattern, you know, whether you like the hexy flower, whether you like some diamonds. Hexagons, I would say, are easy to start with. You don't have just quite so much fabric bulk to worry about. So hexagons are a good place to start. But you know what? If you're a fearless person, just go for it and enjoy it and try it out. Give it a chance, try different techniques, look at the way that different people do it. And yeah, just enjoy finding a creative path for yourself if you have any interest in it at all. I love it, always have, always will, and I do hope that I won't forget about this Hexy Diamonds for too much longer. So, and as I said before, one of the other plus points that EPP has is that you don't need lots of equipment, and it's very portable. So I hope, Tara, that's been helpful and interesting. And if you have any other questions, I mean, I'm by no means am I an expert, but if you have any other questions or would like to know maybe about other resources, if I can think of any, or if I know the answer to your question, I'd be very happy to help. So please just add in the comment, and not just Tara, but any of you. So, you know, go ahead and ask. So really that's all I have to share today. Thank you as always for watching and supporting my little channel, and for being there and for engaging, and I'm still very much enjoying this journey along with you, and it's been lovely to spend a little bit of time with you today. So until next time, which I hope won't be too long, please stay well and stitch happy. Bye folks.